and we have Mal and Ben. Again, we have the lovely couple here in the corner in this lovely window box type packaging. I honestly, I kind of hate this picture of Mal and Ben. It's I watched again another unboxing and found out this is a different costume that they actually photoshopped white, so Mal looks weddingy. And then Ben's just in one of his blue suits. But I think they look kind of, I don't know, I think Mal looks fierce, but I think Ben looks really goofy in this picture. And as someone who's like about to get married, I wish I would have like not emphasized the fact that he is a teenager and should not be allowed to get married. Which, hot take. You can be upset that Descendants is marrying off to 18-year-olds and also think that their wedding stuff is really cute. So I'm like excited. I think all the dolls have been really fun and the shorts have been cute. I'm excited to get more Descendants content, especially in a way that, I mean, I'm hopefully the cast feels more comfortable with. I'm assuming this was all shot and recorded before Cameron's passing. And so I think it's cool that we get to have more Descendants content that's not putting the cast, hopefully, in a situation that they don't want to be in, or they feel pressured into. So I think that's cool. But I still think it's absolutely insane that Ben and Mel graduated high school and now they're engaged and they're getting married this fast. I don't know, in my head I was like, maybe they'll have a long engagement and be engaged until they graduate college, but no, they're getting married now, which I'm assuming is like, okay, so I got cut off before. But basically what I was saying is that I understand why they're having Mal and Ben get married. It's definitely like the fairy tale, classic Disney hallmark of like a happily ever after. But that specific trope actually comes from like the original fairy tales, and during the time where those were written, being a teenager like didn't exist, like that time period. Like you went from being a child to an adult, and the mark of being an adult was getting married or having kids, as we see in the original Rapunzel. And so it made a lot more sense in the original fairy tales that they would get married because they're basically adults at 16, 17. It made a little less sense for the like early 90s Disney movies to have that as well. Like Ariel's literally 16 and she gets married by the end of her movie. But I think they were going for that kind of nostalgic, timeless, fairy tale-esque era in all of their movies. But with Descendants, we very clearly have a modern setting. Like the characters are in high school, and so I think it, instead of directly playing into that trope, I think it would have been more interesting to have a dialogue with the trope, have a conversation about it. And so I think overall, actually, my big issue with Descendants, as much as I do love it to death, is that I feel like it doesn't do enough dialoguing with fairy tale tropes. And obviously we have the female-centric storylines and Mal as the center of her story and the villains as the heroes and the heroes as the villains. But then you have things like, them getting married right out of high school. And then the whole scene with Evie and Doug in Descendants 3, her solo song, makes me really uncomfortable, to be quite honest. The whole, which I understand, it's like a classic fairy tale, true love's kiss, and they put this modern spin on it because you have these, high school relationships where you're not sure whether or not it's love because you haven't said it to each other yet. So I understand like why it's there, but it makes me really uncomfortable to see Evie like manipulating Doug's unconscious body, and like as much as they are a couple, so we can assume they've kissed, we haven't seen them kiss on screen, and Doug doesn't give his consent for her to kiss him in the scene. So I don't know, things like that are like fairy tale staple tropes. I would have loved to see Descendants dialogue a little bit more with it instead of playing directly into them. So yeah, I guess that's kind of, as much as I understand why certain things happen in the franchise, I wish they would have dug a little deeper and had those dialogues with the trope instead of playing into them. So we could have gotten more of a revisionist fairy tale instead of a like classic fairy tale painted on top of this very upside down, modern kind of post fairy tale world. So just my 2 cents. to retrieve the back of the box mostly intact, so super stoked about that. May or may not be using it as a backdrop in my super secret project. So excited about it. Okay, so again, another reviewer mentioned this and I thought it was so cute, but they like rubber bands the doll's hands together in the box so that they would always be holding hands even if like the box jostled during shipping, which I think is really cute. Alright, so we've got Ben here. And I guess this is a new Ben face mold. And he has green eyes, which I think is different than the original. So I want to compare it to my Ben mold because I have the Descendants 2 Ben mold, and I think that's where they switch between 2 and 3. I would say he looks more handsome, but I couldn't tell you specifically what the difference is, or if there is a difference, or it's just my perception. But anyway, it's supposed to be a different mold. This suit is so cute. I mean, again, all reviewers will say this. Wish it was actually several pieces. Wish the details weren't printed on. And I think Ben suffers in them, like the movies, the same way that Evie does, and that a lot of his costumes kind of look the same, especially in doll form. So I think this is like another one of Ben's suits on a doll. But I like this one in that it is more formal. You do get the cutaway here. It looks like a suit jacket, like a tuxedo jacket. I like that it like looks more dignified and more grown up. So I think it's cute that they did like, you know, try to make it look a little bit different than his other suits. And he's wearing plain pants. And the ones I have for him are kind of they have like printed details on them from the Descendants 2 Battalion 2 pack with Mal. So I think it's interesting they went for more of a classic suit look. Again, I don't know the difference between a tuxedo and a suit, but this feels more like a tuxedo to me. This other ones I felt more like suits, so I like the fact they did try and make it a little bit fancier for the wedding. Yeah. So I think as far as Ben's blue suits go, this one's probably my favorite. It looks very regal, looks very grown up. And then just wearing some plain black shoes. I wish they included a crown. And I'm kind of curious as to whether or not he'll get married in his crown. But I think his crown is so iconic. And he gets engaged in his crown, right? He at least at the engagement party in his crown. So I feel like it made sense to have his crown. So I wonder if they just didn't want to include that piece in the set, or if he's just not getting married in his crown. I don't know. It would make sense for him to get married in it, right? Because he's the king and he's marrying his queen. But also, like, it's a personal event, not a public event. So maybe, I don't know. I'm interested to see if they will include his crown in the short, or if it was just a doll decision. So